Welcome back to the Hive Doctor, your beekeeping mentor. Today I'm going to be answering a question I get a lot in comments on my other videos, and that's why do I drill the holes in the front of my deep hive bodies and my honey supers? And since that's going to be a fairly quick and straightforward explanation, I decided to throw in some other tips about how I'm going through and managing my equipment, getting it prepared and making sure that it lasts longer. So if that's something you're interested in, which every beekeeper should be, stick around. Welcome back to the Hive Doctor, beekeepers. So the first thing we're going to cover today is going to answer the question, why do I drill holes in the front of my boxes? I was doing some research years ago that resulted in me deciding to do this for sort of a number of reasons. One is, whenever you find a feral colony out in the wild, of course that's what feral means, they're usually coming and going from something that has a tiny entrance and exit, and they do really well out in the wild. They don't have these big long entrances necessarily all the time like we have on our traditional bottom boards. So I decided to put in all of my deep hive bodies one bottom centered hole just so I can keep things organized, and one hole up here just to the left of my handle. And of course this is the front of the colony. That allows easy come and go. It also allows for ventilation. This one gives them access more towards the bottom. Some of the bees come up here towards the top. It just gives them some options. And especially now, since I've got a different style bottom board than what is out there, there's no entrance. And I can tell you a little bit more about it because it is now considered patent pending. So woohoo on that. There's absolutely no entrance involved. So as a result, I need these holes on the front for the bees to be able to come and go from. And that's one thing that helps me big time, because I don't have to put entrance reducers on my colonies ever again, because this is already a reduced entrance, something that's easily guarded by the guard bees. Now I also put holes in the front of my honey supers, and I just do one, as you can see, in the bottom center. And the reason I do this is because it gives the foragers easy access directly to the honey super, and they can do what they need to and then take off and go and forage some more. The biggest idea behind this is not only direct access, which shortens some of the process, but it also minimizes congestion from the bees having to come in through a traditional bottom board and work their way up through the brood nest, thus congesting it, adding more body heat, more traffic. Because you know, the bees in the brood nest are trying to maintain the brood at a certain temperature, and that's why they beard at night. All the extra bees come out on the front to relieve that congestion inside. Well, these holes help to do the same thing, but during the day while the bees are working. So in a nutshell, those are my reasons for having holes in the front of my colonies. And the bees seem to really like it as well. All right, so now let's look at some other things that I'm doing right now. I'm in late fall, early winter, not really into winter quite yet. And so I'll go around and gather my equipment that is not being used. In other words, the equipment that there are no live bees in. And I start going through, taking inventory, making sure every box has the number of frames I want, whether it's 10 frame, or if I want to run 9 frames in a 10 frame box. This is the time to do it. I like to clean up my frames. This is also a great time to go through and cull any dark comb that you want to move out of the system, so that next spring during the first spring flow, you can incorporate either fresh wax foundation or fresh undrawn plastic foundation, so you can get fresh new comb into your colonies and get that old comb out. And the old comb is usually mostly an issue because of pesticide buildup. Now where I live, it's a very fortunate area because there's hardly any spray here. All of the foraging that my bees do are primarily on wild cultivated land. You know, it's not controlled, it's not sprayed, not even for mosquitoes here. But also, one of the reasons that comb gets dark is because of when a brood is developing, they spin several cocoons that cocoon stays in the cells. So if you've ever melted wax and you see that slum that's left over that just won't melt, that's not beeswax. That's that old cocoon that was in the dark frame. And the more and more brood that's developed, there's a higher and higher buildup of that cocoon. So technically speaking, the older a frame, the smaller your bees are going to be because they have less developmental space in that cell for developing during the development period. It's somewhat similar to us running 5.4 bees, 5.4 millimeter cells versus a beekeeper running 4.9, which is just 4.9 millimeter. A lot of them will run their equipment with 4.9 cell size, so they have a smaller bee because they don't require quite as long of a developmental period, so it keeps the Varroa mite a little bit more manageable. But I don't worry about that kind of stuff. I just do what's regular. I'm a 5.4 person, not even trying to do it. It's just what's easier for me, and I use a lot of other methods for mite management, as most of you know. So here's an example of some dark comb that I could easily cull out. And when I say cull, it means since I've got plastic foundation, I would take this over a tarp or a bucket, use my hive tool, and scrape this stuff down to the plastic. The plastic would then be put back into a colony next year during a time when they could draw it out with fresh wax. In the meantime, I would take all of the scraped wax, the dark stuff, off of this, both sides, and put it into a bucket, and eventually when that bucket gets so much in it, I would put it in my melter and process the beeswax. And again, save your beeswax. You can use it for several things, either for yourself, you can make your own candles, sell them, sell it to someone else who makes candles or lip balms, salves, whatever. But one of the things I really like to let beekeepers know is if you've got a beekeeping supply place near you, a lot of them will offer you store credit or even write you a check if you bring in your clean filtered blocks of beeswax, because they use it. They use it to wax frames, they use it to make candles, and then they resell those things themselves. So beeswax is valuable. Save it. And over time it'll eventually build up and you'll be glad that you did. Another great idea to do during this time of year, when you've already got your equipment out like this, your boxes, frames, anything else, top hive covers, bottom boards that are not being used. If you're a beekeeper that has had to register for a license in your state, then you've been given a license number. And it's a great thing to be able to get some kind of hot branding tool so you can brand the wood. Burn your license number into somewhere on the box. And however you do it, I put it in the same spot of the box, just like I do my holes. All honey supers get holes in the bottom center. If you were to brand your frames, I'd put them all in the same location. You can even be on the inside of the box. And you can also stamp each and every frame if you take the time to do so. One of the benefits to doing this is it deters theft. And there's no doubt to whom the beekeeping equipment belongs. Now in my case, although I do have a license number, I am a licensed commercial beekeeper, I decided to go with something else because that's not a thing that's necessarily required in Georgia, and I don't have a problem or any issues with theft, thankfully. But I did get a brand. It's a hot iron that can plug in, but on the end, it takes any kind of threaded brand. So I had one custom made of the 2 feathers in my logo. So that's something I'm going to be doing as well. And of course, I want the burned look. So I'll do that after I'm done painting my boxes because I don't want to burn it and then paint over it. You're not going to be able to see anything. So keep that in mind when you're going to be doing, if you're going to be doing the same thing. And in my case, when it comes to branding my 2 feathers, I haven't quite decided where I'm going to do it yet, but I want to do it in the same spot on all of my boxes. I'll either do the lower left-hand corner or right underneath the handle. I don't know, but I'm sure in a future video that you guys will see what I finally decided on. But I like uniformity, so I'm going to think it through. This is not something you want to rush into. And finally, the last thing I'm doing, at least right now, is as you can see, I've got stacks of my equipment, unused of course, on boards between sawhorses, and I've spaced them out and stacked them up in such a way that I can get around and repaint all 4 sides. I love to repaint my equipment in the late fall so that's fresh to use again on bees next year if I'm growing, when I'm growing my bees, or splitting, so that I've got boxes ready to put bees in. And so the way that I do that is I stack them up as you see, and I'm able to get around to all four sides without the next stack being in my way. Because I don't want to have to I don't have to move wet boxes and get paint on my hands, even if I'm using gloves. It's just one extra step of not being so messy. But the first thing I'll do, since these are all used boxes, is I'll take my drill, my battery powered drill, put an end on it so I can come along and just kind of run it and get the outside brushed off and clean. Any sand or dirt, dead bugs, spider webs, anything that gets on the outside and would prevent paint from sticking. So that's going to be my first step. And then I'll come out here and start slathering on the paint. And of course, probably the most important step after doing all of this that I've mentioned today would be to store these things out of the elements so that moisture cannot get in and start to mold your frames, and also so that wax moth can't get in there, stay in there without you even knowing it, and destroying your beeswax. So this is a great time to start using some kind of wax moth deterrent, whether you're going to be using paramoth crystals or certain. Make sure that you do it, because this stuff is valuable, and once you've got drawn comb, you're already ahead of the game. So whether you catch a swarm next season, buy bees and need to introduce them into your own equipment, or a swarm moves into your own stuff, or you're putting these boxes on your already existing colonies to help them start to grow, you're giving them a head start when you do it with drawn comb. So let me know what else you probably do during this time of year. Put it in the comments below so everyone can see. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends about the Hive Doctor, and I'll see you in the next video.